lane situation a bit, but not necessarily, oh no, this is terrible. And I mean, hey, they've got Azir and Kindred and Gangplank. They can play at range.
They can. I think that the bot lane at the center Tahm Kench in this game, it's fine in some regards. It allows you to play towards top side because, let's be honest, Shyvana, Zeri, Yuumi is not going to gank you early. That's not going to be something that 3v3s you, but it's not something in the same way that can stack waves and go and roam into the enemy jungle as easily as your Kallistas, as your Lucian Namis, or something more pressure lane. So Riddle deciding to leave Kevo and Nash to their own devices and let Stefan roll somewhere into the rest of the map, gone for that lethal tempo. You can see so many different runes on the Kindred. I'm a big Kindred player myself, but on ARAM, so it's a little bit different. My brother Initialize, of course, other caster friend, NLC, he's a big Kindred player too. So we spent many an hour talking about this champion. And what Kindred does very, very well is walk into the enemy jungle and just fight you. For those that remember back to their release in Season 5, it really was the pick which broke the meta in terms of farming junglers, and then this person, this duo of Lamb and Wolf would walk into the jungle and just look to kill you.
And you need to be able to do that because, of course, you want to be stealing away those camps, getting those stacks, getting that range and damage, and being a big old useful hypercarry into the later stages. And when you've got a Senna as well, there's going to be a lot of backline damage. And as we've already mentioned, the Azir and Gangplank kind of want to be playing a little bit at range. Gangplank a little bit less. He's playing from either across the map or in the fray. My one main concern about this Riddle roster and team fights going later, and I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, is that there's not a lot of beef up front, as it were.
You're relying on Nash to do a lot of good work. That, and also just hoping that you get to poke people out before things get, the gap gets very, very much closed, because if you have a Yone catching anyone away from the Tahm Kench, and also maybe even the Tahm Kench themselves, let's be honest, things are going to get pretty rough. It's going to be on Riddle to outplay those situations. Cries, speaking of outplaying, just getting that rage bar. Or is it Fury on it? I think it's Fury on Fury,
actually. Yeah. Is it rage on Shyvana?
Yes. Oh no, I have to. At least we don't have a Renekton as well, which has another one of those words, if not the same as one of those. But yeah, of course, when you get that maxed up on Tryndamere, you get a lot of crit chance, even very early into the game. You just kind of stat check people. Cry's actually got a pentakill on this champion. Of course, last split was the one pentakill of the split. First one of the split. I'm not sure it was the only one.
I believe that Jaeger also found himself a pentakill last split.
Oh.
If I'm remembering correctly.
No, I think I'm remembering the wrong play. Oh, that's really sad. I believe it was, because it was the Tryndamere Pentakill, which is the first one. I think I just might have misallocated that. That's kind of sad. I thought I had that one nailed. I saw it as
NLC historical.
Oh, it's Tryndamere and NLC. It's the Pentakill thing. I just kind of conflated two things. That happens. But either way, Cry's no slouch on this champion, and no slouch at being lane pressure king. I think in spring, Cry's was our best top laner. I think in this split, Cry's for most of this split has also been our best top laner. But when you have Chasey, who's had some very good games, who's starting to come online, when you have Jaxplank, who's been playing 1v1 matchups, playing on his real comfort champions, that has come into question in a way that it wasn't in spring.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, when you're saying that Cry's been our best top laner, when Jaxplank is right there, I think actually, Inventor needs to be a little bit careful with Nash rocking up, but I think, yeah, it's, Zeri's going to be fine. I think Carson's also within a shout. Curb, in his own ways, within a shout for different reasons.
Yeah.
Potentially, but we've got a lot of good top leaders in the league, which is always good. Jaxplank might be caught out a little bit, trying to escape. A flash forward from Dan. Cries is there. The Shyvana will secure first blood.
Okay, and now it's Shyvana, not a champion that ganks early, but is more than happy to pick up stuff that you throw to them. Dan gets to take a quick detour from obviously power farming in the way that Shyvana does. Gets to pick up a scuttle in the same way. So Stefan not able to track the Shyvana, not able to get on top of them and hem them back into their jungle. Dan has so often been the early game defining jungler. We talked about Dyron Prox being that for Bifrost, but Dan has been the overall early game king of the NLC. I was wondering whether Stefan could hold them back in the early game, especially with the Kindred, a champion which is designed to do that. But with first blood on the board into an important matchup, JDXL, that's a huge win from them in the early game.
And for Kindred, it's just about farming up. Has spotted out that ward with the red one. It's just going to be keeping it at bay. But keeping an eye on where these stacks start to come through and how many stacks Kindred has is going to be quite important in understanding after the first few levels, where Kindred is obviously a great duelist, how good she's going to be.
Yeah, so obviously on level 3, level 4, still very strong duelist just because her base kit is very good at keeping distance. And when you're within the Wolf's Frenzy, you get that 2-second, well, actually, that's only when maxed out the rank of the queue. But you get very low cooldown on your Dance of Arrows. in the trading of scuttle crabs. Dan went topside, of course, got that kill, but the smirk was on the bottom side, so Stefan got one. This could be huge, though. Dan's walking in. Stefan doesn't have flash, has to peel off.
Venter's coming on over, though, so there's going to be support. Eminez is moving down, so Stefan could be in a bit of trouble. Dragon may well be secured by the smite. It will be by Dan. Eminez coming on through, looking for the kill onto Stefan. Will be able to find it with Venza in support. Riddle chased away, lose the objective and the kills.
And it's just a little too bold. It's a little too proactive, and Stefan thinks they found an angle, instead finds their own doom. And topside, Jaxplank doesn't have the flash, needs to be so very careful as Cries using that matchup to its own regard. Riddle are a team that loves to make these individual plays. They did that in spring with even 5 different players. Felt like they had to in spring and summer. They've had a lot more free reign to just be clutch, just be damn good at making plays. But this one is something that we've also seen from this. They sometimes just stick around too long, overestimate themselves, and get punished.
So Jackson needs to be very, very careful. Might be cut down, but will Cries be able to escape flash? There's a heal available, will be used, but it's not going to be needed as Cries gets the solo.
Oh, so Dan managed to find that early kill, leads to an experience lead, which leads to Cries taking over the matchup. And JDXL are the early game kings of the NLC. Overall kings as well right now, sat at the top of the table, and it's for reasons like this. Even though Riddle has strong individual players, even though they have some of the most clutch individuals in our region, JDXL are the most lethal early game rotation team. They move on the map and someone gets hurt for it. Last game they played was a little awkward for them, but JDXL only sat at the one loss. Of course, that graphic on the top, it's lying to you. They're 10-1. They are so dominant in that early game, and that's part of the reason for that success.
And as you mentioned, Monday, they weren't so dominant in the early game. Things looked very rough for them, but they still managed to find the W. And good teams win when they're not at their best. That's how you know that a team is very good point. Strong. Yeah. Because, hey, you don't have to turn up at 10 out of 10 every single game. Individuals don't have to turn up at 10 out of 10. Cries turned up yesterday, or Monday. Oh,
level 7 to 5. This is so bullying. This is so bullying. Jaxplank has that stacked wave, but Cries... Yeah, you can see how much JDXL have just ruined the top side of the map now. This is actually something that JDXL did a lot in spring versus X7 and a couple of other teams, right, where they'd end up finding ways to just really ruin the top side of the map just through superior early game plays. And Cries now being the beneficiary of that. CS leads, kills, you name it. JDXL in a very comfortable position.
And for Dan, he's going to move around, try to take out those neutral objectives. The Dragon, of course, more important to Shyvana, is able to take it down, get some buffs from doing so, more so than everyone else who also gets buffs, but now they're going to be moving towards that top side once again. Dan going over the wall in the full Dragon form, as Jaxplank's going to be chased down, and his ultimate's going to be blown.
And that is going to be the Cannon Barrage down. Of course, losing the Dragon form, the Dragon's descent from Shyvana does hurt that champion a lot. Maybe that means that he can't duel out the Kindred, or rather escape from the Kindred too, using that mobility at a later date. As it stands though, Dan, more than happy to trade that for that Cannon Barrage in terms of short-term gains.
Stefan's going to be moving up towards Dan on the Rift Herald. Jaxplan's coming as well. Eminez stopped the recall because he wants to hang around and help his teammate. Cries is also there, so it'll be a 3v2 for JDXL in their favor, as Azir hasn't quite made the move. Vladdy just returning to lay it after a back, and JDXL should be able to take this objective down. Cries just going to help secure that one, and Dan picks up the eye.
So early Dragon, early Herald, JDXL keeping all of those boxes checked for early game objectives. Now we're looking at Riddle. Again, this team which is vying towards that top spot, already taken that one loss to JDXL, one of the 2 losses they've had again. Graphic showing an extra loss on either team. Just a reminder, it is just 1 for JDXL and the 2 for Riddle. But Riddle lost one of those games to JDXL. They would love to have that head-to-head, keep things in question in terms of the seeding. And M&S gonna get...
Ooh, very clean from M&S. Just gonna be able to ult away from that one.
Buffers it out. And Vladdy on the Azir has been a big playmaker. Not afraid to show that to M&S in this own regard, but it's not leading to any goals. It's not leading to anything big for Riddle to clutch onto and get themselves their own leads across the board.
And the markers just spawned up on those topside Raptors, but Eminez and Dan already in the neighborhood to prevent anything from going on there. And now Dan might be looking for a dive in the top lane. Cries is there, of course, has the ultimate available on the Tryndamere. Dragon Descent is also going to be blown, and Cries with the ultimate is just going to be able to take up that tower, secure that kill, and run away screaming. JDXL mess up the top lane even more.
They do, and again, this is JDXL looking at Riddle, and in a lot of ways, you look at them and say, how do Riddle win games? A lot of time, it's through individual matchups, particularly for Jaxplank. They hit it early, they hit it again, and you know what they do? They hit it another time after that too. Now, The worst thing for Riddle in some ways is the fact that Dan didn't even put the Herald top lane. I know that it's a conversation I was having with Trouble, actually, in the last week, where Trouble was saying, she was having a chat to a couple of pro players about where you put Herald, and a lot of top laners go, just never put Herald in my lane. If you are winning top lane, you want those 2 out turrets to stay there so you can keep abusing the matchup. Take those plates yourself. You don't need Herald's help. Dan doesn't put it down, keeps it as a threat, a very thinly veiled threat at that one, just saying if you move anywhere, this is going somewhere else on the map. And Cries can keep doing this to the top lane matchup. No freeze allowed for Jax Plank, no farm allowed for him.
And he's just getting beat down, has to flash away. Cries actually to go under the tower and secure the solo kill. Doesn't even need ultimate, and he just walks off.
And again, if you were to get an extra 400 or 500 gold out of, well, even less, I suppose, if it's shared with the Herald, that would actually work out less well for Cries on an individual level than just getting those kills and denying the farm top lane. Cries has been set up for success and is putting Jax Plank in the dirt.
Good news, we're 11 minutes in, as Eminez is just going to put some damage down onto Valer. He should be able to just slide away as they're playing at range. Dan is around, so maybe might look for the Dragons to send onto the Azir. Going to drop the Rift Herald mid, which might also be a decent option to go for a gank, as he's just going to be sticking around while Vladdy tries to clear things away. Stefan's also moving down to defend, but there's going to be plates going over into the Yone, into the Shyvana as well.
That's another handful of plates over to JDXL. That gold lead starting to balloon. 3,500 on the table right now. And again, a lot of that is in important matchups. It is in that top lane, which is so poorly going for Riddle.
Cries going to be following Stefan over the wall. Does have the ultimate available, and he's going to pop it down. But
they timed it at the same time.
Will also mean that no one's taking too much damage. Cries going to have to back away. Dan is there. The cannon barrage will do some work, but not enough to kill Tryndamere.
Oh, and Stefan wins the first mind game of, can I pop my ult at the same time you're popping yours? They get the calculation just about right. But the cost of the Lamb's Respite, and then also Cannon Barrage and the Sentinel, 3 ultimates to get a net even play is even worse for Riddle in that case.
I get to use one of my Prince bits of information that he learns.
Yeah.
I believe the Tahm Kench ultimate and the Tryndamere ultimate are the same length. So if Tryndamere ults, Tahm Kench can be like, hum, and then spin and kill him. I believe that's true, or it's like 0.5 seconds maximum is the difference in duration.
That is a horrifying visage, actually.
Cries is terrifying, but if he gets too big, Nash might be like, come here, fella. We'll have a word with you.
But you have to stack your passive 3 times, and that is probably going to be 3 auto attacks and a spin from Cries. And at this point, you are not very happy with that arrangement. So that is a fun bit of trivia. I like that. See if that ever becomes relevant, though, because Cries is on a very different trajectory, and Jax Plank is, we've seen this before. We'll see it again.
Dan's here for kill steal, emotional support.
Emotional damage.
Emotional support there, just going to be securing now. But we've hit the 13-minute mark. Venza, he's not behind. He hasn't even died.
Didn't even die at level 3. Yeah, that's what happens when you pick double scaling lanes. You got the Tahm Kench, the Zera Yuumi. They're waiting for the team fights to come to them later. But this draft was always going to be, particularly from the side of Riddle, can we win topside and just not worry about individual lanes after that point? And the answer to that is sadly no. You have to worry about that top side. JDXL have forced the issue. Dan specifically has forced the issue. While Cries is getting a lot of the rewards for this game, big, serious props to Dan on ganking a lane which is the most swingy in this game in terms of 1v1s, with a champion that is not built to gank those lanes, and punishing Jax Plank for being in the wrong place at that wrong time. That was such a huge play from JDXL, and they're looking to solidify their place at the top. This team which has been iconic to NLC summer so far.
And I mean, we could talk about Dan, because we talk about JDXL having such a great early game, such a great presence. They're aggressive, they're doing all the things correctly. And the jungler is always going to have a big part to play in that. And for Dan, this split, he was very consistent last split, as we have another one of these things that look good in the mid lane, but it's just kind of particle effects.
Yeah.
As he was very consistent last split, but he's been very good this split.
Yes. I think that's a decent big comparison. I like that, because last split it was like Dan will always be a factor. Now it feels like Dan will almost always be a winning factor.
Yes.
So it's right to praise this player, particularly as someone as tenured as he has. Of course, Dan has been around since Challenger Series back in 2014, 2015. I'm trying to remember his actual debut year, but Dan has been around in the European scene for such a long time. To continue to put in performances of this level in the ERL scene is nothing to be sniffed at, and is Only starting up that second Herald, and Riddle once again have 0 way into this. And look, another thing that was mentioned right back in that draft, Yuumi has pretty much every champion in the game that has a champion in every role that she would love to attach herself to, love to start carrying off. This time chooses M&S, who was charging up with that that Mortal Steel, I believe it is, and looking to fly into that backline.
Oh, M&S looking to fly into the fight. Holding forward, won't catch anyone. Catches Ko with a little bit of damage as Dan tries to get away, but the Emperor's Divide will catch him in dragon form, so there's no way of him diving through. He will be executed. First kill of the game to Riddle. M&S now might be in trouble. Manages to step away, dodging away from the ultimate from Senna. The damage doesn't land, but Azir follows up, but it's jumping out to Yuumi. Vladdy gets caught by the respite, and unfortunately, Yone dives away, gets killed on the route out. Venza goes for the ultimate, but will survive, picks up one, dives from Nash, flashing away, but is also deleted as Yuumi FGG trying to float away, but Nash is chasing the slow from the tongue as the cat will be licked down, and there's the kill from Vladdy. XL, why?
It's an utter collapse, JDXL. They funnel in one by one by one, and you know who isn't there at that fight? The guy on your screen, it's Cries. He finds himself an opportunity to all in on the top side, but can't even finish the kill. Riddle are hero playing their way back into this game yet again. We've seen it with different players. We've seen it in spring. We've seen it in summer. We see it again versus the best damn team in the league, or so they are currently. Riddle looking to take that spot.
Top team in the league. Well, the best team in the
That's a very
league
good
is kind of what we're trying to work out in this game. Kind of.
No, I think that's very true in a lot of ways. I feel like this game is more important for the message it sends rather than the place it is in the standings, because these teams are likely going to find themselves in playoffs. They are very likely going to find themselves facing each other in playoffs, despite the chance of some collapses. Of course, we're going to have to see why this got so close in this one. It feels like this was, actually it's not the uneven numbered fight because Yumi's there, of course, but this is just a lot of important stuff being dodged or just straight up missing from JDXL. It's an overcommitment. You have a global to worry about from the Gangplank too, and that even doesn't depend on items. Gangplank is just using the base damage from that ultimate. It doesn't matter that he's behind in gold, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and that means that so many factors come into this, but can they do it again? They can dodging away from that one, and once again, the players stalled out.
They try to threaten it, but that fight, there was that pivotal moment where if M&S had jumped back immediately to his last previous point, gets into Lamb's respite, the rest of the team turns up while he's invulnerable. That could have been the turning point, but unfortunately, a little bit too slow on that one, deciding to try and retreat rather than stay and fight onto the Kindred, which turned the fight in the favor of Riddle. Their first real win, they got the dragon off the back of it. It's Infernal Soul. Couldn't have really asked for more than that in this game.
That's a fairly big one. It does mean there are less choke points to play through for Riddle's composition. I think that potentially favors JDXL, gives them some more access to these carries. Actually, it's a little bit of a different thing, because I think for someone like Yone, you want to be catching people in those choke points. For someone like Zeri and Yuumi, you don't really care about terrain as much because you can hop over it. But on the other side, of course, a lot of champions that use choke points well themselves in Riddle. But either way, that's something that we'll have to talk about, that terrain, seeing about how these teams set up their battle lines or set to break the enemy teams, right? JDXL looking to get really up close and personal. They've got 3 melee champions and then a Yuumi who wants to be riding up, hatching a ride on one of them. And on the other side, trying to play at range, which is something that you call out very early into the game without that lack of beefy front line. So we'll have to see what happens with that Infernal Rift. And of course, that Soul, which will be a very coveted prize too.
And it's been slowed for JDXL. It's been started up by Riddle, grabbing themselves their first Dragon 2, of course, before we're taken by JDXL, so they're still in the lead in that regard. And we're going to see a Rift Herald being dropped in the bot lane. Dan is hanging around, Yuumi on his shoulder. Vladdy's the one who comes to defend, but I think he's going to have a hard time of doing so. The inner tower will fall. JDXL unlikely to push for more, considering the number of Riddle players moving down, now numbers 4, as it's on Stefan up in the top side to meet M&S.
So, speaking of Stefan, second charge comes in. Of course, inhibitors do regen a little bit, so unlikely to fall in the short order because Cries is going to reset. Gives at least Riddle a chance to walk away from things. M&S walking up, seeing what he can do. Can we actually quickly hover over Stefan, if that's okay? I want to see how many marks he's managed to find himself. Can't imagine it's too many. It's only 3. Doesn't even have the first range increase. For those of you that don't play Kindred,
Dan,
who cares? Let's fight in melee.
Dan's still standing. Someone alter it. Thank you, Dan, as he secures it and will waddle away. Ultimate's bump, but they do get the objective.
That's important. It is still very important. We saw this in the first game of the day. You lose that mid lane out of turret. You don't get to hold vision as well. You have to fight inside your own half of the map after that point, effectively, if the other team is still in the lead. But with this, Dan has now been taking inner turrets, been part of that top lane fracas too, gets that mid lane outer turret too, and has built the second item up. That is a demonic embrace. It's more HP. It twins on from the HP of the Frostfire Gauntlet being picked up as the Mythic 2. And of course, Demonic Embrace has a burn effect, which relies on your HP. Well, rather, like the AP it gives you is based on your HP. So with the ability to stack dragons, which then of course gives you more resists on Shyvana's passive, you kill a dragon, you get more resists. Having that ability to stack HP, you actually are starting to snowball to the point where you have a lot of meta stats on Shyvana, which means that you just get to be a very valuable champion.
This is an early Baron being started up with JDXL, caught out by the cannon barrage, and they'll just wander off. It wasn't too threatening, but it gave the information that Riddle required to start moving members up towards the purple.
Big brain. It's just another target to auto attack, so you can charge Shyvana's ult. Of course, you got to auto to keep getting your rage stacks back. Or no, it is Fury on.
It is Fury on Shyvana.
Fury on Shyvana is probably rage on the other one then, probably. I remember that because I actually play this champion sometimes.
Is it for Renekton? Is it Ferocity on Renekton?
Ferocity is... So the funny thing is, I actually did a couple of ability quizzes recently because I was waiting for Pop Quiz. Ferocity is Rengar's Q. I know that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the name of that one. Completely irrelevant to this game, I guess. But what is more relevant is this dragon spawning in 5 seconds. Riddle, again, this is what they're looking for. Keeping the battle line safe, keeping their back line safe. But how can they do that against so many diving melee threats? Only one time Kench to keep things safe. A handful of defensive ultimates.
Dragon's been started up by JDXL, but Riddle have all 5 members, so they could look to contest this one. Stefan goes over the wall, but Emnes is going to forward through a lot of damage, going down onto the Kindred, throwing down the Lamb's Respite. Venza free-firing on the back line. Nice caught by Emnes' ultimate, allows Kryze access, but Vladdy gets away. The ultimate has to be blown by the Tryndamere to keep himself alive. Stefan will be cut down eventually, but this fight took a lot longer than maybe JDXL would have liked. They've only caught 1, but they will find Kevo for the second. Venza's
so fast!
Trying to grab onto Jack's plan, might be able to find a third, and will be able to do so with the final auto. Nash is corralled in the bot lane. Eminez just going to see if he can cut down the Tom Kench. Nash going to be knocked up. A decent amount of damage goes down onto that support, and he will be felled. Dragon goes their way as well. JDXL take the fight.
They take the fight. It got a little bit questionable after the Lamb's Respite was used in a pretty opportune spot, but it wasn't used before the Yone ult, which drags everyone out of it. JDXL routes their opponents and then use their 4 run-at-you champions with a Yuumi attached to make it even more dangerous at that point to just stop Riddle getting home, getting away from that fight. They run them through, take both objectives, get to reset, nothing lost for them on the map, and they are slaughtering this mid-game.
We can look at this one again. Stefan goes over the wall trying to get that steal. It's a smart idea, and he survives for such a long time because of that Lamb's Respite. But Emnes' ultimate here just keeps everyone in place. But then it's clean up.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually think that Riddle played this fight fairly well as far as a straight 5v5 goes. Now, they don't have the easiest comp to pick someone off on the side as well. I think this is about as good as it gets, but it's still not really enough. You can see again what happens when you lose this fight. Again, we've seen this a couple of times today now. We've only had the 2 games, so it's happening quite frequently. But if you lose the fight against a team which is faster than you, has more mobility than you, when that fight is lost, you lose everyone. No one gets to escape. JDXL run them down, and that allows them to just run across the entire map and take everything.
And for Riddle, it's feeling harder and harder to come back into this one. JDXL only got a minor lead on the momentum meter. I would question, wake up analysts. I don't think that's necessarily correct.
Oh, is it me in the back room? Oh, sorry, that's me.
You want to go and sort them out? Yeah, we'll have the next
I don't know, when I touch that momentum meter, weird things happen.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Nash going to come in to join his team, but JDXL with this Baron just want to try and siege in that mid lane. Of course, Kryze and Eminez are going to be really potent on the side lanes. Should be able to pick up a little bit more.
So what are we looking here from JDXL? Looking to stack up waves in tandem, push into the base, and try and break the base on this Baron. I think they have the amount of gold and the amount of fighting potential to threaten it, but if they dive and they don't hit their targets, again, they're not actually in an easy enough position to get away with that completely. Eminez looking to catch Vladdy, just about misses though.
Emperor's Divide will keep Vladdy alive, but Eminez keeping the pressure up. Might be able to break down this inhibitor tower as Dan comes through to provide that little extra damage that is required. Kevo unable to defend as he just picks up a couple of souls. Riddle will now go on down, but that's the base cracked.
That's the base cracked, and that's mission accomplished. That's what they wanted, but Venza being caught is not on the field, not on the menu.
There will go over the wall, catches 2 with the root, and will escape.
Hey, doesn't even have to blow summoners. Of course, Venz, you know what? I hadn't even checked in on this myself, personally. Venz is actually running the Ghost on Zeri. That was actually very relevant in the last couple of fights, but considering everything's been topside focused, I just not managed to clock that in. Just goes again towards the if you lose fights, someone is running you down. With that Ghost involved, things get really, really awkward. Cries has the Ghost himself actually on the top lane, in case everything goes a little awkward there, but not forced to, even with the Senna and the Kindred making their presence known.
Lolly using his passive tower just to keep the pressure off the inhibitor itself. As JDXL have moved members to the mid lane. Once again, Kreis is doing very well to keep pressure top as Dan steps forward to try and hit that tower. Stefan is going to try and deter him with a couple of auto attacks, but you've got to imagine that this base may not be the longest for this world.
No, well, there is going to be a fair amount of gold to set and reset to now. It's a minute 30 until Dragons see what JDXL want to do with their timer for that. Looks like, again, the retreat is called, and what they're doing is pretty much maximizing the value they can get out of all remaining resources on the map. So take jungle camps, clear some vision out in the same way, go back to base uncontested, then reset towards this dragon, get yourself a soul, and that's pretty much it. Lights out. It's by the book, doing it tutorial style.
Stay behind your minions.
Thornmail on Ashe. You know what I'm sad about? Ari used to be a tutorial champion in the recent edition, and they removed her.
Oh no.
Yep.
What a shame.
There you go. I had a brief chance to educate people very early on. Get them early. Make sure that they know which champion's the best. No longer the case. Now you have to play Misfortune or Scion or someone.
Nah, Scion's funny. I like that. I like it with the case of them being like, stay behind your minions.
Remember, if you die on this champion,
Scion.
it's a good thing because you have a passive.
No, but the funniest thing is stay behind your minions is the meme, right? From the tutorial. Scion's whole thing is if you stand behind your minions,
M&S is in front of his minions. He's not read the tutorial. What's he going to do about this?
M&S,
4 men top.
So maybe he'll get some work done diving forward with the ultimate, catches on to do a lot of
Oh my god.
He picks up Jack's tank, will fall eventually, but it's a solo kill.
Okay. Not tutorial style. Go in front of your minions, folks. Kill your enemies. Drive them before you. See the lamentations of their bases. That's another tower going down for JDXL. Mid lane inhibitor turret hitting the floor. Venza has summoners, has items, has so many items actually. Infinity Edge picked up at this point. JDXL really just continuing to put that accelerator to the floor.
And with the inhibitor falling as well, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for contests to happen around, mainly Baron because it's bot side. So in a minute's time, that is going to be pretty rough. Soul has just been secured by JDXL. That's very rough for Riddle. And is there is there something Riddle can do?
You prey on mistakes. You can see that JDXL are committed to playing on multiple lanes, which makes sense, is what their champions do, but maybe you can focus on that, Dan. Doing a very cheeky style at that point and just denying Stefan even access to his own jungle camps as opposed to getting marks anywhere else. Can we just again quickly just focus on Stefan to see how many marks he's got? We checked in, what, 15 minutes ago at this point? Something like that, 10, 15? And he is still on 3 marks. Kindred needs to snowball, wants to get that early game rolling, and it's so far gone from that now. You can see that this next experiment to try and keep Dan down, to try and keep JDXL's early game down, horrifically failed for Riddle. They've had to claw back against the deficit and against what their champions want to be doing.
Which, when you're in a poor position on the Rift, is going to make it a very, very difficult.
Okay, punish the 1-3-1 again.
M&S, once again, is a little bit extended. Complicated with the ultimate, will be able to snap back to reality, but a lot of damage coming on.
There goes Gravity.
Yeah, I mean, there goes M&S.
Lose yourself in the music in the bot lane. You want Baron. So at least JDXL do. Dan, Venza, we talked about the items they have picked up. They are more than happy to take that one down. It is at least another kill onto M&S for Riddle. This Yone not been the real defining champion on the Rift for JDXL, but has been just so much of a threat. And again, just another person pushing in ways, making life very difficult for Riddle to respond to. If Vladdy finally gets access to the bot lane turret, it will be a objective bounty for Riddle to pick up. Gives them a little bit more gold in pocket, but JDXL fairly happy at this point to reset, maybe start looking for that death push.
And with the Baron up, it's going to be a bit easier for them to go for that killing blow. As usual, it will take likely a team fight where that's going to take place. Unsure at this very moment. You've got to imagine that JDXL will want this game to be done before the next neutral objective spawns.
I mean, they have the Baron on right now. They've just hit other items for their carries. That is almost full build for Cries on the Tryndamere. Warmog's picked up for Dan as well. If you want extra HP, that's definitely a good source of it. And we already talked about how that definitely twins up with the 4 dragons you've got, which gives you resistances from Shyvana's passive, gives you AP from the Demonic Embrace. Dan now able to just walk up, hit a tower, shrug it off, walk backwards, have a Yuumi help you out in that regards too. And everyone else is going to be doing hilarious amounts of damage with their items as well. JDXL going towards this bot lane, which of course M&S cracked open on the last Baron push. But since that's happened, Vladdy has gained access to the power of this passive again. Question is, you've actually had to send a lot of people bot lane. You have to try and defend this. What is going to happen on the other lanes if you're sending 4 people bot?
We've had to send a couple of members. Nash is running up and down, but the inhibitor's gone and fallen. And M&S now moving in. Cry's is going to try and take the top lane inhibitor. Jack Spike's the one defending it, but I don't think he can do that 1v1 against this Tryndamere at this point. As Venza fires, there's the kill on the top side. And JDXL take all the inhibitors down. They've got Baron, they've got the numbers advantage. They chase Riddle away from their own Nexus and will look to take a couple of them down. Stefan gets the Lamb's Dress, but he'll be able to catch Dan, and he's going to be taken out by the laser because he's not saved by the Kindred Orbs, but Venza's going to be chased away a little bit, but still survives. Cries dives in, he's gone for the Undying Rage, and will be able to secure the game before falling. JDXL remain at the top, and Trouble owes us some donuts.